Hello, friends. It's time for Thought Shifting Thursdays, and I'm here with my beloved Corina Vieta Harbula. She's starting to go by Harbula now. She didn't at the beginning. In fact, we are pronounced um, what does that say?
There it is again.
Okay. Thought we went off of Facebook there. Anyway, that's a whole nother story I'll talk about later. But what did you say just before we went on?
Don't drag it on and on and on.
So this is part of living an abundant life, is humor. We laugh all the time. Wasn't thinking about talking about that, but it's true, right?
Yep, we do.
Man, all day long we laugh. And not just, sometimes we fight too, but they're fair fights. We never ever demean each other when we are angry. We might communicate what's bothering us, sometimes in her very vibrant style, I'll say. But we never call each other names. Well, maybe once or twice you've dropped an F-bomb, maybe me too, over the 20 years, or it's 22 years. Well, we've been friends for, I'll let you say this because I'm doing all the talking.
I don't know, 30 years?
Yeah, pretty close to 30 years, and living together for 22.
Married for almost 20.
20th in August, 20-year anniversary. So we're talking about now, we've been doing a series on prosperity and abundance. I've been teaching this class, Busting Loose from the Money Game. And so we've been doing our Thought Shifting Thursdays all on this subject because I'm excited about it when I'm teaching it. So this is probably the last segment we'll be doing for a while on this topic because Sunday's our last class, and we'll get on to something else. I never know exactly what the theme is going to be until about 5 minutes before we go live. So we're talking about abundant living, not just financially, but on all levels. Now you had, for your women's circle this month.
2 weeks ago.
Right, 2 weeks ago. You had your women's circle on abundant living. What came out of that with the ladies that were present?
Well, the topic brought up a lot of stuff for people.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually caused one of them to make a really big change in her life. And she quit her job, which was making her really crazy and upset, so that she can have this abundant living that we were talking about. And she is so much happier now that she left that job. Everyone together as a group helps with this abundance in our lives. So I'm just really pleased with where the group is going.
So the message is, everyone go out there and quit your jobs, and you'll live an abundant life. Just teasing. But maybe not if your job is something, I'll talk about this a little bit. The theme of the book, brought down to the simplest conversation, is this. When we're simply living from an inner experience of freedom and joy, or any spiritual quality, all spiritual qualities, everything in life just tends to line up. And so one way to nurture that inner experience is to do what brings us joy on a consistent basis, which we do a lot of, right? Mm-hmm. And to even use what will bring me the most long-term joy. How we define joy is not the opposite of sadness. That's happiness. That's a personal experience. Joy to me is a profound and pervasive spiritual quality that can be even present even in moments of loss or distress or whatever. So it's long-term because it's a spiritual quality. It's not instant gratification. It's not just happiness. So one way to determine that is to use what will bring us most joy as a compass, right? So thinking a month from now or a year from now, looking back from that perspective, what will have brought me the most joy to do in my life? And when we do that, just coming back to your statement about quitting a job, when we do that, it tends to clarify. And if I'm doing that consistently, then it's probably going to occur to me at some point, wow, I've proven to myself by doing what brings me joy consistently then why am I in this job that doesn't bring me joy, right?
Yes.
And so that simple shift then can give one the impetus to, if we don't have the consciousness for something, then, we can force ourselves to look for another job. But when we do have the consciousness, which comes from that inner experience, freedom, joy, love, abundance,
Boom.
then, right, we can't help but make decisions that move us in the direction of more and more joy, more abundance, more freedom, everything we want in life. So, what else do you want to say about that?
What was I
You're so
thinking
beautiful.
Yes, if you are always thinking about, I have to do this because of A, B, C, or whatever. I have to. That is not a good place to be. So, what do you have to do that you love to do? I mean, raising a child, it can drive you crazy.
Well, and what we say in the course is, as human beings, we tend to do what will bring us the most joy, or at least more joy than the alternative. But we forget about the joy for which we're doing it, and then it becomes a have to or a should. And I guarantee you, when we do things for the joy of it, it's always way more effective and beneficial than if we're doing it for a should or a have to. So yeah, if I'm raising teenagers, as we did at one point in our lives, you might say, gosh, I have to do this. I don't have a choice, right? But actually you do have a choice. You could put them up for adoption.
No, you can't.
You could, hire a hitman, but no, you don't want to do that. But
No.
But there are options, right?
You just won't care. That's
Yeah.
the option. You won't care how these kids turn out, but if you do care, you will put a lot of effort.
Right.
And
It's
love
bringing
into
you
it.
long-term joy.
Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it, right?
And what's happened with our two girls right now? I mean, they're both living at very high frequency. They're doing what brings them joy. One's in
right.
Spain, fulfilling a dream that she had 5 years ago. It started 5 years ago, that she wanted to teach abroad and to travel. And she's doing it, and she loves it. And she realized, okay, 1 year is enough. I'm going back home, and she's done. But she did what she wanted to do, and that brought her joy and happiness and what, static. The other one has been fighting to go to Japan. That's her long-term goal, and she's been trying to get there for 3 years. But then the pandemic hit, and Japan has been shut down completely. And she just got her visa 2 days ago, and she is
yesterday.
going.
Well, she texted us yesterday anyway.
Yeah. So she's doing it. She's living the life that we are living, and so our children see how we're living, and they are mimicking us.
Well,
in a way.
I hadn't thought about it until you were saying that. What our example might be to them. So yeah, I think right now I just want to take complete and total credit for the joy that they're experiencing. No, just kidding. It really is about them, but it certainly didn't help that we've been that kind of role model for them, right?
Yes.
And when kids are teenagers, or we didn't actually think they ever listened to what we said, or really necessarily were learning anything from us, because they're rebelling most of the time. But and that's an interesting thing, and I say this to people a lot, that we don't we don't ever change anyone's mind by telling them something that we believe, right? The way people get changed or influenced is by seeing how you live your life.
Right. My example, which is what my vision was in the Sweat Lodge. And in your last meditation, how am I going to fulfill my life purpose from this point on? And it's by experiencing, by doing.
Yeah. Not necessarily by book reading. I say that about our retreats. In Western culture, when we want to learn something, we either get a book or Google something, right? And what happens in that is we get it first as an idea. We read about it. We mull around in our heads, and then as we play with it in our minds, then it starts to sink down into our emotional nature, and then when that happens, then if it's a strong enough feeling, then we get inspired and we start applying it in our life, right? But when we do our retreats, which are always in nature, it's like, and when we're doing our workout, our ceremonies for our sweat lodge, and we're outside and people are sharing, we hear the birds chirping right now, and you see a hawk fly by, right? And you get a sense of, oh, that's freedom. It doesn't go first through the mental process and then the emotional and then down to the physical. It's a complete download on all of those levels at the same time. That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? Wisdom is what we get from simply experiencing and have it being applied instantly in our lives, right? So it's a really good point. So, anything else we want to say just about abundance, and the topic is busting loose in the money game. The book's really not about money. It's really about consciousness, right? And yet it uses money because that's something that people tend to be tied up in, right? And spend a lot of time. I mean, how much of our lives are dedicated to getting money, preserving our money, not losing our money,
yes.
and so on and so forth. A lot of energy goes into that, and so it's a great metaphor, to enter into the conversation about consciousness. I'll say again, which I've said in many of these videos, and by the way, if you didn't see any of the previous ones, go to our YouTube station, or you can find them on Facebook, or they're all together in a category on Instagram. And look at the past, 8 weeks or so, and you will have a series where we're talking about these things. But so I've said, in the past, that my favorite quote from the book is this: when you get to the place in consciousness where you realize it's no better to have $1 million than it is to owe $1 million, then you'll have the consciousness to be able to create whatever you want with a snap of your fingers. Now, that snap of the fingers is an ideal, and we may never reach that. Boom, $1 million. Well, I don't see it there, but the wheels could be turning right now. And $1 million could be showing up in our bank account for something we don't even know about. But the point of that is that if we're saying that one thing in the world of form is better than another thing in the world of form, we're saying the world of form has power over my inner experience. So coming back to the only thing that's important is, can I feel abundant right now? Can I feel joyful right now? If so, I'm going to have joy. If I feel abundance right now, I'm going to attract abundance. If I feel love, I'm going to attract my soulmate, right? But if I'm looking at the world for evidence for that and saying, oh, it hasn't worked, it hasn't happened, so it's not working, then I'm giving my power away again to the world of form. If I'm just consistently, so we did this in a few videos, where just close your eyes and can you feel abundant right now? Or can you keep your eyes open and we're just looking at the abundance of nature? Can you just think about all the things that you have in life, and maybe even things that people in third world countries or in Ukraine right now don't have, right? We are incredibly, if you're watching this video, you're abundant. You've got a phone or a computer, so you've got to be, right? So if you can feel abundance right now, you are abundant. If you can feel abundance now, a moment later, you're abundant. Can you just continue to create a string of abundant feelings, of loving feelings, of joyful feelings? That is the secret to everything. And I know it might be challenging, as some of the students in our class found, to go from how I'm feeling now to feeling that consistently. But they are all getting that is the key. And we're seeing amazing, and I'm not doing this to promote the class, because the class is almost over anyway, and we had the max amount of people that we wanted anyway, which happens for all of our events, right? So we don't do these videos to promote things. We do them just to share the information.
Because it brings you joy.
And it brings us joy. That's the main reason. You got it. That's exactly what it is. So, anything else you want to share just about our experience of our lives together and how this stuff works so easily for us?
Huh. Well, there's a lot of respect for each other, I think, too.
Yeah.
And we support each other in everything that we do. I really do feel supported by you a lot of time. And, it's also a blessing that you were born the way you were born and I was born the way I was born. I mean, our backgrounds also. I mean, I was born very poor in Guatemala, but the way that I always felt and I always feel is I have everything that I want. I've always had everything that I wanted, and more.
And I use
so
that.
I'm just so blessed to be able to feel that way all the time. I don't understand why people don't. It doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Because you have food, you have a home, you have whatever you have. That's what you should be thankful for. Why are you being so miserable and start thinking about, I don't have, $100 worth of a car. Instead, I have a $30,000 worth of a car. Well, why could you just be happy with that $30,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is?
I'm happy with my 2006 Prius. Just recently said, why don't you buy Carmen's car? Because when she was leaving for Spain, she had to get rid of it, right? And I said, I love my Prius. I really believe in minimalism. Sometimes, I said this at the Sweat Lodge recently, there's a fine line between minimalism, which is choosing to live a minimal life in order to not use up more resources from the planet, because our species is destroying the planet by doing that. But there's a fine line between that and just being plain cheap. And minimalism sounds a lot better. But I think, in teaching this class this time, that's one thing I'm learning, is that I'm even seeing how sometimes it brings me joy to acquire things for less money, because that's part of minimalism too. But sometimes it might bleed over into cheapness. So I'm just watching that. I'm being mindful about that.
I love a good deal.
Oh, yeah.
I love going to estate sales, garage sales. I love shopping at Macy's, only at the 70 and 80% off rack. I don't need to have the latest of the latest. I'm comfortable wearing secondhand clothes. So
she gets designer stuff, man. I mean,
for $1,
maybe
why not?
In the comments, I'm going to post a picture of her. Funny story. I was doing an event, down at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living. It was actually the national conference, and they were doing it virtually during COVID. And so we decided, it was in March, I think, we decided, it's like awards season. Let's do a red carpet. And so I decided to get a tux, as a few other people did, for the event. And she wasn't going to come with me. And I said, you got to come with me. I can't show up in a tux and not have my trophy wife on my arm, right? And so she wasn't going to do it. She said,
I don't have anything to wear.
As we got close, she wanted to support me, right? And so she said, if I can find something to wear, I'll go along with you. And so we actually went to this quinceañera shop nearby, and it had these, really loud and
$500, $1,000.
And if she would have bought one of those, I would have said, great, she's coming with me, that's fine. But actually I thought they were pretty gaudy. And then this is crazy how this happened. So I'm looking for my nice black shoes to go with my tux, and I'm looking, and they turned out to be in my car because I had them for an event in there or something. And I'm looking through my closet floor, and I find this dress, and I'm going to post a picture of this on the floor, and pulled it out, had a tag on it. She got it at some yard sale. She didn't remember when, probably for $1. She wore that dress, and she was the best dressed person at that event. And I'll show you the picture. It's just it's stunning. It's now the wallpaper on my phone. So but you might say, okay, we've got a lot of abundance. We've got, over $1 million home and all this stuff. But there was a time when, I was my business was $100,000 in debt after I left the corporate world. I never saw it as debt. I was investing in our life and our future in the business, even though I didn't know if it was going to take off or not. And the success that we've enjoyed is a result of what we're talking about, was feeling abundant even when it looked like there was $100,000 worth of mostly credit card debt, right? And if we had not had that feeling of abundance then I know that we wouldn't be enjoying the abundance we are now. So just coming back to that's the most important thing, is how do I feel inside right now?
Yes.
And your story about your experience I talk about that all the time, saying, she was sleeping on a mattress with 4 other sisters. They didn't have running water. We went to Guatemala and visited her uncle, and he was living similar to that, right? Although he was rich compared to you guys, because he had a refrigerator.
He was the rich uncle.
Right, but you didn't know you were poor because you didn't have a TV to show you other people's living situations to compare it to. So you felt abundant then, and you felt abundant all your life.
Oh my God.
And I've told the story before about we're the richest. Lynn Twist. I don't think I'll go into that whole story now, but Lynn Twist, the author of Soul of Money, maybe I will tell that story. This is real. I think I shared in a previous video, but I'll share it again. So in this video, she said, or in this lecture that I saw about 20 years ago, she said, I think when we're affirming prosperity, she's talking to a room full of new thought people. When we're affirming prosperity, we're really affirming that we're in lack. I wouldn't be affirming prosperity unless I didn't feel like I don't have enough, right? She said, why not affirm sufficiency? Exactly what you were saying, that I have enough right now.
Yes.
Right? Because if we didn't have enough, as she said, we wouldn't be in this room right now, or you wouldn't be watching this video right now. And she said, we're the richest country in the world, but we seem to think we don't have enough, more than someone growing up in Guatemala, right? And many people in third world countries. When we visited Africa, Nairobi, and India, it's amazing how the people there seem to be more joyful.
Because they don't have anything to worry about.
Some people are worried about where their next meal comes from.
That's true.
Or maybe they're not worried. I don't know, but they seem to be smiling. The kids, as they're going like this in India, right? Meaning, can we have some money? $5 will pay for their meals for a week, right?
Yeah.
And she said, so here we are, the richest country in the world, but we think we don't have enough. Because we don't have a better car, a better house, whatever it might be, as much as the Joneses, as the old saying goes. But she said it's not only true of resources. How often do we wake up in the morning and the first thing we say is, I didn't get enough sleep last night, starting the day from a place of lack? How often, this is the one that hit me the most, do we say, in our culture, there's not enough time. I don't have enough time. And here's the point that she made that really hit right in the heart, is if I'm saying I don't have enough resources or finances, if I'm saying I don't have enough time, I don't get enough sleep, what I'm really saying at a very subtle level is I'm not enough. Because I'm the subject of all these things, right? And so for me, how that translated, that time I still had a lot of investment in my worthiness being connected to how much I accomplished. And if I didn't accomplish everything on my list in a day, I'd feel like I failed, right? To some degree. And so I just decided that moment that whatever I get done in a day is going to be enough, because that's what I got done. Whatever my finances are right now is enough, because that's what I have. Whatever amount of sleep I get at night, I sometimes forget these things, that's going to be enough. It's interesting, when we're on the retreats and people are sleeping, on Catalina Island, on the ground, right? Some people have air mattresses, but it's not your normal. And a lot of people don't sleep. Some people sleep better. Some people don't sleep as well. But when we're in nature, we start to challenge things that we normally wouldn't. Like, oh my goodness, I only got 4 hours of good sleep last night, but I would
You're right.
normally I would think that I would be tired, but I'm not, right? So that's again coming back to nature teaching us wisdom as opposed to what we think based on prior experience, which may or may not be true right now. So any other parting words do we want to leave with people? Well, your women's circles are normally on the third Sunday,
Third Sunday of the month.
right after our sweat lodges, which is on the third Saturday, and the sweat lodges are always filled up. But maybe I'll put a link in also just to the sweat lodge meetup group if you're interested in that, and to the women's circle, which is now starting to fill up. It's becoming quite robust. So if you're
wonderful.
out there and would like a women's support group, then come and join. And we, not me,
Only women.
or identified as women, right? We
Yeah.
have some of those. This is our labyrinth, and so the ladies have a topic each week that you discuss and get support on, and then walk the labyrinth and take it into a meditative experience. And
It's wonderful.
you just got some beautiful emails from people that are really getting value out of it. So anyway, that's what we'll leave you with today. Have a great rest of your week and a fantastic weekend, and
Live in joy.
we'll see you next week. And put in the comments if you want to see more of our Thought Shifting Thursdays with my beloved Corina in it, because we do take requests. All right, well, we love you, and we'll see you next time. End live video.